Each morning carries a story, from the headlines that shaped our world to the quiet moments over a cup of coffee.
Today we're opening the Pennsylvania Gazette, dated July 3rd, 1776, just one day before the Declaration of Independence was signed. And with July 4th, 2026 marking 250 years since that historic moment, this newspaper gives us something incredible, a look at what people were reading right on the edge of America's founding. Inside, we don't just find politics and war news. We find runaway notices, lost pocketbooks, disputed debts, military reports, job ads, and the everyday details of colonial life. And one quick note. If you're reading along, some letters may look strange. In the 1700s, the long S was often printed in a way that looks almost like an F. So words like Congress or service can look very different at first glance. So let's step into July 3rd, 1776 and see what was printed in the newspaper the day before America changed forever. This report comes from Captain Seth Harding, describes a bold Patriot naval victory near Boston Harbor. Harding says his brig, the Defense, came upon a British ship and brig at night and ordered them to surrender to America. Instead, the British fired a broadside, starting a battle that lasted several hours. By the end, Harding's crew had captured both vessels, taken 210 prisoners, and later helped capture another ship carrying 112 Highlanders. For readers at the time, this was exciting news. It showed that American forces could not only resist Britain on land, but also challenge British ships at sea and capture badly needed enemy reinforcements before they could join the war. This piece is a sarcastic jab at Britain's war expenses. It claims that a shipment of hogs sent to Boston went so badly that only 4 animals actually landed, costing the government an absurd 1,100 pounds per hog after expenses. The point wasn't really about pork. It was about the ridiculous cost of trying to supply an army across the Atlantic. For Patriot readers, this would have been funny and encouraging. It made the British war effort look wasteful, inefficient, and maybe too expensive to keep going. This short report claims that British leaders held an urgent council at St. James's over a stunning message from their own commanders in America. According to the notice, those officers warned that continuing the war might be impossible to carry out successfully. For readers in the colonies, this would have been powerful news, or at least powerful rumor. It suggested that even inside Britain's military leadership, there may have been doubts about whether the war against America could actually be won. This letter comes from Lieutenant Colonel Archibald Campbell, a British officer captured near Boston. What stands out is his tone. Even though he was a prisoner of war, Campbell says he and his officers were treated with great civility by the Americans in Boston. He then asks General Howe to arrange a prisoner exchange, called a cartel, and lists the officers and soldiers from the 71st Regiment who had been captured. For people at the time, this showed another side of the revolution. Not just battles and bloodshed, but negotiations, prisoner exchanges, and moments where enemies still followed rules of honor and military conduct. This is an advertisement from Daniel Goodman, a baker in Philadelphia, claiming he could infallibly cure the bite of a mad dog, what we would now associate with rabies. He says his family had practiced the cure in England for more than 150 years, even when trained physicians had failed. At the time, rabies was terrifying and often deadly, so ads like this show how people turn to folk remedies, family traditions, and bold medical claims when official medicine had few reliable answers. This notice offered a $4 reward, roughly around $150 today, for the return of John Peterson, a 16 or 17-year-old indentured servant from Holland. The ad describes his appearance, clothing, language, and past employers, but one line really stands out. It says he's apt to steal and tell lies. That detail shows how these runaway notices did more than identify people. They also damaged reputations in print. At the time, newspapers were used not only to recover laborers, but to publicly mark them as dishonest or dangerous. This article reveals serious tension inside the revolution itself. A committee of safety appointed Captain Samuel Davidson to command naval defenses on the Delaware River, but other officers refused to accept it because he had been promoted over them. The committee defended Davidson, saying he earned the role by merit, not seniority, and they accused his opponents of supporting mutiny. For readers at the time, this was alarming. If American forces were fighting over command while the British threat was still real, the defense of Philadelphia could be weakened from within. These two notices offered rewards for the capture of two enslaved men, Ishmael and Nuri, who had escaped from enslavers near Philadelphia. Ads like this were common in colonial newspapers, often listing a person's appearance, clothing, skills, and possible movements to help force their return. The timing is striking. While America was talking about liberty and independence, newspapers were still regularly publishing notices that treated human beings as property. These two separate notices are basically colonial-era relationship drama in the newspaper. William Hutchings announces that his wife Anne has left him, behaved very unbecomingly, and that he is absolutely not paying her bills. Another man, George Gunn, takes it even further, claiming his wife Bridget left his bed and board and is now living with other men. So before Facebook posts, divorce court drama, or messy group chats, people aired their marriage problems in the local newspaper for everyone to see. This is a wartime job ad looking for men who could weld gun barrels, along with blacksmiths willing to learn the trade. During the Revolution, weapons were urgently needed, so skilled workers became part of the war effort too. This shows how gun-making depended on local craftsmen training new workers to support the fight for independence. This 1776 lost and found notice is unusual because the man wasn't just carrying a little cash. His pocketbook held several different kinds of money: continental currency, Pennsylvania money, Maryland dollars, and even a receipt for 8,000 continental dollars. Today, that sounds strange, but during the Revolution, money was messy. Different colonies and governments issued their own paper currency, and people often carried receipts and financial papers as proof of value. So this wasn't just a lost wallet. It was more like losing a small bundle of money, paperwork, and wartime financial records all at once. This notice was placed by Mary Gator after her husband, Martin Gator, allegedly abandoned her and left her without support. She warns the public not to buy any of his property, saying he cannot legally sell it without her consent. At the time, this was more than a personal complaint. It was a public attempt by a wife to protect her financial rights in a world where married women had very limited legal power. Notices like this show how newspapers became a tool for survival, reputation, and legal pressure in everyday colonial life. This 1776 notice is Samuel Eastlack warning the public about a bad deal. He says Josiah Shivers tricked him into signing a 9-pound note, basically a written promise that he owed money, and now he does not want anyone else accepting it as real payment. In simple terms, Eastlack is saying, if this man tries to hand you a paper saying I owe money, don't believe it. I'm not paying unless a court makes me. It's a small piece of colonial financial drama, basically an 18th century fraud warning printed for the whole neighborhood to see. This advertisement offers for sale the remaining contract of a young Dutch servant girl, described as healthy, strong, and good-natured with 5 to 6 years left to serve. At the time, this likely referred to an indentured servant, someone whose labor contract could be bought and transferred to another household. What stands out today is how casually the ad treats a person's labor and future as something that could be purchased. It shows how common bound labor was in colonial America.